All right, man. Today, we're going to be talking about inflation. I got a video on this channel, on this YouTube channel, that talks about inflation, like very in depth, right? And we look at the past money charts, the M1 money charts, and we look at, the historical rates of inflation year by year since the gold standard. But today, we're just gonna go, kind of surface level, but in a way that's fundamentally gonna give you an understanding of inflation, right? All right, so look, we used to have paper money that was backed by gold. That is not the case. It hasn't been the case since 1972. And before you think that I gotta wear my tinfoil hat on this, that's not the case. It was put off the gold standard by Richard Nixon, and he did a whole, presidential address about why they're doing it and all that stuff. And, they said all kind of reasons why they want to take it off the gold standard. But when you do that, you create paper money that is only worth really the paper that it's printed on. They say that the backing of the dollar is the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. And maybe once upon a time, that might have been good. That might have been cool. But today, I think the debt clock is like 40 trillion. And, we're considering going to war with those who we owe money to so that we don't have to pay the debt, right? Here's another thing. I want you to think about how our monetary policy and the ability for the Federal Reserve to coin dollars. I want you to think about that whole concept of how that system works, okay? Now, let's say I have $1, okay? I don't know. Let's say, all right, let's say this is fiat money. This is a quarter, okay? I take this fiat money and I tell everybody, hey, everybody, I'm the only one who's authorized to make this fiat money, okay? I'm the Federal Reserve. I'm the only one who's authorized to make this fiat money, okay? Now, I'm gonna lend you this fiat money that I'm the only one authorized to make, but I'm gonna lend you this fiat money, all right? And I want you to give me back this fiat money plus interest, all right? I want you to think about that. Think about that concept for a second, okay? I'm gonna give you the only money in the world, and I make all of it. I'm the only one that makes it. I'm gonna give you this money, okay? And I want you to give me more money than I gave you. Think about that. More money than I gave you. That's impossible to do. I can't. I'm the only one who makes this. And I gave it to you, and I told you, go get some more, bro. And I'm the only one who makes it, Think about that. Yeah. Haha. I hope that those cognitions are going off. Wheels are turning up in there. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's how it works, right? So anyway, money is printed. So, all right, there's these things called like treasury bonds, right? And you can buy them, and it's basically like a guaranteed loan. It's risk-free because you're lending this money to the government, right? You buy the treasury bond, and that money that you paid goes to the government, and they do whatever they want with it. And later on, when it's redeemable, you give it back, and they give you that treasury bond plus interest, whatever that treasury bond's interest was supposed to be, according to the treasury bond. That's how new money gets into circulation. The hope is that treasury bond lands in your, the money that you spent, right, is returned to you with interest, and then they hope that you put that money in a bank, and then the bank is able to lend that money, right? Anyway, that's how it used to work anyway. It's real complicated now. There's a whole bunch of nuances, new products and all that stuff. But in a nutshell, though, that's how it works. So now, if we were just trading dollars among each other in America, inside of the borders of America, that would be fine. Like, we could inflate the currency to the wazoo because, there's a central body, the Federal Reserve, who's basically dictating the value of that dollar, right? But because we trade outside of the U.S., we have to import goods and services and whatever, you know what I mean? We do commerce outside the U.S. on a day-to-day basis, like, it's part of our economy. These people have to be convinced that a dollar is worth a dollar. You know what I mean? It's tough to do, to say the least. That's a tough thing to do, right? And so that creates basically like, a world currency market in which the value of the dollar is assessed in comparison to other currencies. Now look, here's the other thing. 80% of the world's currencies are also backed by the US dollar. So when we inflate our currency, the US dollar currency, other countries around the world also feel that hit. All right, they feel that, right? And they're measuring theirs also. And it's not like a proportional ratio too. Like if the US dollar catches a cold, some other currency somewhere else gets pneumonia. You know what I mean? That's how it goes. So anyway, there's this notion that inflation is somehow good. Okay, there's a whole mental gymnastics judo thing that pundits and whatever, people who are trying to spin this scenario in a way that's good, right? They're trying to do this, and they're trying to do this in a way that's good for Americans because many reasons. Maybe they just really love America and they don't want anybody saying anything bad about America. Maybe they really just want Joe Biden and his administration to be not responsible for what's going on. And he's not solely responsible because the same thing was going on under Trump. And we were all, all the people who were investing were like, yo, what's up with this? You know what I mean? Y'all really gonna do this, huh? Y'all really gonna do this? So, he was doing the same thing. And I want to set the record straight here. It's just, this is not a good thing, okay? Now, typically, if you're very wealthy, you love inflation. Why do you love inflation? You love inflation because any debt that you have now, that dollar amount stays the same. So, for example, right? All right, I give you a quarter. I give you a quarter. I'm the Federal Reserve. I lend you a quarter, okay? You now owe me a quarter plus a nickel, let's just say, right? 20%. All right, so you owe me a quarter plus a nickel. But if inflation is 10%, right? And I give you owe me a quarter plus a nickel over the next 30 years. And if inflation is, let's just say for a really easy number, 10%, let's just say, okay? Or let's just say 5%, because I know people are going to be like, oh, 10%, it's not even that. The government told us it was 6. So whatever, right? Okay, so it's 5%, right? Inflation is 5%. That means in 5 years, the value of this loan drops by 25%. And the value or the amount of the prices of goods and services in the economy may be increased by roughly the same amount. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less, right? But the value, not the dollar amount, it's still going to be 30 cents. But 30 cents in 2021 is 25% less, more valuable than 30 cents in 2026 because they're printing so much money. They're adding so much money to the whole supply that it's devaluing the currency by that much, right? So if you have debt, great, right? And literally that's what people are doing right now. They're loading up on debt. They're borrowing as much money as they can, like people who invest. They're getting their hands on as much money as they can, burying it into assets like Bitcoin, crypto, real estate, other stuff, right? They're burying it into assets because they know they can cover the monthly nut on the payment for that loan, right? But they also know that, the whole landscape is going to look different in 5 years or 10 years, right? So paying off that loan is like they'll barely even feel it, especially if they're burying it into assets because now it'll produce a return. Typically the wealthy love inflation because the value of their assets go up and the value of their debt goes down. And I'm talking about value, not dollar amount. 30 cents is always going to be 30 cents, but 30 cents 20 years ago could have got you a few candy bars and a drink and whatever, 30 cents today won't get you even a candy bar. It gets you like a third of a candy bar. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying about value versus dollar amount. Okay. So, all right. So the wealthy bury their money in assets. They don't have a lot of liquid cash sitting around, or maybe they do, but it's not enough to worry them compared to how much in assets that they hold as far as their net worth goes, right? So they typically like inflation. The reason why even the wealthy right now are like, whoa, I don't know about this, Joe. I think you need to scale this back. The reason why they're doing that right now, and they're also caught between a rock and a hard place, because at the rate that it's going, it's dangerous. Like, you could end this game, this inflation game, this free money game, you could end it forever because of the rate of inflation that's happening, right? Now, man, I just had a thought, man. What was it? All right, so 94% of the stimulus has gone to very wealthy corporations already. People have gotten PPP loans, then filed for bankruptcy, right? Then unfiled for bankruptcy to get more PPP loans, qualified, got the loans, and then filed for bankruptcy again. Bro, come on, man. It's a game, bro. It's not serious. And so they like that there's a lot of money printing going on. They love it, right? But they're like, wait, this is too much money printing. This is too much. Because at 1 to 3, even 5%, if it's a real 5%, because at 1 and 3, it was like more like 5%. But at 5%, the average American barely even feels the inflation. Okay? You barely even feel it. It's hurting you, but you barely even feel it. 10 years have to go by of money sitting in your bank for the value of that money that's sitting there to drop by 50% in terms of buying value. So, at 1 to 3, 5%, it was okay for them. It was okay. But now the government's telling you 6%, but we all know that because they tell us, this is what they tell us. This is how they're factoring in CPI. They're not counting the cost of food, the cost of gas, the cost of housing, and their CPI. They're not counting that. They're not measuring that to see if inflation is real. So, if I'm not counting the goods that I use on a day-to-day basis, right, then I can skew the numbers. I don't have to worry about inflation at that point, right? And so now that this is at the point where the deterioration of the buying value of the dollar is too great at this point. It's too great. That's when they're worried. Because now they can't play this game anymore. Now the government, corporate welfare, breast that they were suckling from to get their nourishment, that they could count on to be there, to bail them out, to help them out. Now, this is nullifying, the mechanism that allows them to be that, allows the government to be that for corporations. So now even they're worried. They're like, whoa, hey, man, that's cool and all, but, man, it's getting a little out of hand. I think you need to scale it back, Joe. But at the same time, they've been getting 94% of the trillions of dollars of stimulus, right? They've been getting it. They go and they buy back their own stock with the money, bursting up the value of the stock market, right? And since they're doing that, what happened with the methodology behind it is that they already own a bunch of their own stock. So now they'll own more of their own stock that they didn't have to pay for, and they drive the price up, which increases the price of the stock that they already owned. Okay, it's inflation. It increases the value of already owned assets. It's just that the people that are getting this money now go and spend it on their own assets once again to get more. Okay, this is a big money game. Even the whole tax the rich thing and changing the tax code and taxing people who make over 400,000. It's a ruse. You know what I mean? Look. All right, man, I used to work with a billionaire, and when I was like 19, I wasn't making a whole lot of money, but I was like basically dude's right-hand guy every day. I went to all his meetings. I would be in many car rides to and from the office and to properties and to deals and all that stuff. And I gleaned a lot of really good information about business, about life, about all kind of stuff. He's a billionaire. Okay, he's a billionaire. He's worth about $2.4 billion. On paper, his personal salary is $5,000. Okay, it's $5,000, and I'm not going to get into how much his company makes, but on paper, he makes an income of $5,000, and he's a billionaire. All right, this is the game they play. Through the tax code, if you set up an entity, like Caravan Film Cruise is an entity, it makes money. That doesn't mean Teddy makes money. That doesn't mean that at all. As Teddy, I make whatever my salary is. You know what I mean? As Caravan Film Cruise, it can make as much money as it wants. You know what I mean? The revenue that it generates from sales, you know, and selling products and things like that, bro, that's Caravan Film Cruise money. That's not my money. You know what I mean? I don't have that, right? My salary is whatever I determine it to be, you know, based on whatever. Now, what happens to that money that's left over from the money that Caravan Film Cruise makes? Well, Caravan Film Cruise decides to invest in equipment, invest in assets, right? Like crypto or whatever. And that's what it is. You know what I mean? That's what Caravan Film Cruise gets to do with the Caravan Film Cruise money. Teddy, on the other hand, Teddy's just an employee of Caravan Film Cruise. He's nobody, you know what I mean? That's not his money. And this is the game that they play, right? So, you know, the tax code allows them to determine what their income is on paper, what they do with assets. You know, as a corporation, if we make a $200,000 profit, I can take that profit and I could even just set that aside into an account and say that account is for a future purchase that we're waiting for. So that money's already spent, and that's not profit, whether I spend on it or not. You know what I mean? At tax time, if I declare it like that, that's what it's declared as, you know? And they could audit the companies, but these guys have more lawyers than I got videographers on task to shoot stuff. And, you know, they'll go and fight it out the wazoo, you know what I mean? And if they make, you know, some of these guys, if they make a contribution to a politician that may advocate on their behalf or lobby on their behalf, you know, then that's what it is. This is the kind of system we live in, bro. I'm just letting you know, okay? I'm just letting you know if you didn't know before. So the whole tax the rich thing's not going to work. You know, it's just not going to work. Anyway, inflation, right? So look, man, here's what inflation does to you. If you have a bank account that you save money in, okay, the value of the money is depleting by whatever the inflation rate is, okay? The global commerce that requires us to factor in and adjust for the value of the dollar is the number that people who are, you know, at the administrative level of business and dealing with sales and goods and expenses, we're considering this in our calculations, right? If you're smart, right? You consider this in your calculations. And so your prices will adjust accordingly. That doesn't mean your wages do. That does not mean that your wages adjust at 3% per year or 5% or 10% per year. No, you have to negotiate that. And if you don't even know that your value is being depleted by that much, then you won't even consider it. You won't even bring it up as something to discuss, you know? And that's why the wealthy and even, you know, just regular folks, economists, people who are just paying attention, the inflation is called the hidden tax. The hidden tax. Because the government can just produce it out of nothing, right? But you paid for it from your savings account, from your Roth IRA, from your dollar derivative saving instrument, from your 401k. You're paying for that. You know what I mean? Like it's hitting your account, you know, in terms of the cost for that. Who's most disproportionately affected? The poor and the marginalized across the world. And because we back 80% of the world's currencies across the world, that's who's affected, okay? And so, you know, if somebody makes 20 grand a year and is able to save $1,000 and inflation is 1,500, if inflation is 15%, you know, they just lost $150 in their savings. You know what I mean? If their salary doesn't increase by 15%, their salary basically decreases by 15% in a year. That's a lot. That is a lot of money. that they're down, that they don't even know is happening. They're not even realizing it's happening. It's not like this big announcement like, hey, your buying value went down this year, you know, your salary stayed the same though. This is not how it goes. You know what I mean? And so I don't know or I don't know why people want to try desperately to say that inflation is good. It has never been good. You know, there used to be the belief that people would say, well, you know, we need inflation to expand the economy and then contract the economy and expand it and contract it because we can't expand too much. It's not true, man. It's not a real thing. We're learning now, right? In the past like 10 years, we're learning. That's not true. That's not good. You expand and contract the economy because you make money every time. You make more money when the economy contracts. You want to buy assets at a cheaper price. You know what I mean? At the expense of those who got the assets when the economy was expanded. And now that it's contracted, they can't keep the assets. They can't afford to keep them. And so you take them off their hands, you know, cheaply. That's why you expand and contract the economy. The Federal Reserve is not federal. It's not a government entity. It's a bank, okay? And it has no reserve. There's no cash reserve there. Any money they print just immediately gets lended out. The other thing is, you know, the reason why you can't really trust the government number of, for inflation, 6% that they now say, is because fractional reserve lending is contributing to inflation. It's not trackable on an M1 money chart. All right, because it's not the printing of dollars from the Federal Reserve. It's the printing of dollars by stroking the pen that any bank can do. So banks will receive. All right, so wealthy people buy treasury bonds, loan it to the government. The government pays back those treasury bonds by printing new money. Not by producing a return or GDP, they just print the new money and they pay back the treasury bonds. The treasury bonds plus interest ends up in a bank account. That bank account at the bank is looking great. And the banker says, hey, let's lend that money out. You know, if there's $1 million there, do they lend out $1 million worth of loans? No, they don't. Because by law, they're allowed to fractionally reserve lend, okay? Money. So what they do is they take that million and they say, okay, million, we're creating a bank note off of that million. And this bank note is worth 10 million. And so we're able to issue loans now in the amount of 10 million because we have $1 million in reserve. 10%. Think about that. So just like that, boom, they just 9x'd on top of the million. How much millions is out there? And you go and you buy your car or your house, or you get, you know, a home equity line of credit with the fractionally reserved money that was there that they just lend out of nowhere, okay? Out of nowhere. That billionaire I used to work for, and I didn't believe he was a billionaire. Man, I learned a lot from dude because he lived a very simple life. You'd never know this dude was worth that much until my boy found his tax returns, and we were both shocked. We were like, damn, we knew he was breaded up, but damn, we didn't know he was breaded like that. Wow. You know what I mean? So anyway, dude made a lot of money in the 70s and 80s. A lot of money. I mean, a ridiculous amount. I don't even want to get into just how much. He lost a lot of it. So ending up with 2.4 billion was like at the tail end of, you know, what happened to him. And it's a whole crazy, crazy story. But anyway, he was making so much money that the Treasury Department reached out to him and wanted to make him a certified dealer. All right, a certified dealer. Now, a dealer is somebody who can walk into any bank and based on their credentials can get any amount of money that they want. The only catch is the tax on your income using that money is 50%. No games. You can't finagle your way. Like, nah, this is what it is. You're partnering with the government to do this. You know what I mean? Look, you can't have a system that operates like that without funny money, man. You can't do it. You can't do it, man. Funny money needs to occur for somebody to exist. And he's not, like, if you would think he's the only one, you're crazy. No, he's not the only one. Not even close. There's people who you probably know by name that, you know, are certified dealers. But anyway, it can't operate without funny money, something like that. you know, because it's not like that bank has that in reserve. They don't. They don't need to talk to the Federal Reserve to get permission to lend the kind of money that you could lend to a dealer. You know what I mean? That a dealer would request. It's just strictly writing a bank note, okay? A note that just says, hey, promissory note. You know what I mean? Hey, we're backing you for this much. You know what I mean? And you could take that to another bank and cash it. You know what I mean? This is how our system works, dude. Like, whether you want to agree or not, you know what I mean? Do your research, bro. Do your research. This is how it works. You know, you never heard of it. That's because they don't teach this anywhere. You know what I mean? I had to work for a billionaire in order to learn like this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, who gets to do that? You know? So, look, man, this inflation thing, bro, it's gonna kill you. It's gonna kill you, man. I mean, I don't mean like literally kill you. Don't take it out of context. But I mean, financially, it's thwarting your plans. You know, if you're thinking like, yo, in 10 years, man, I'm gonna be 65. I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna be able to get Yo, in 10 years, if we're just at 10%, that means that the value of your dollar, you know, needs to double, right? The amount of money that you have in your savings account needs to double in the next 10 years. In order for you to just maintain the value of what your stuff is right now, bro. Can you do that? Can you double it in 10 years? You know what I'm saying? Can you earn a consistent 10% for 10 years just to double it, just to keep it safe? You know? And that's if we're at 10%, bro. My dude, family. We're at closer to 20. We're at closer to 20 by more conservative estimates. The pundits used to argue, bro. They used to argue that we were closer to 10 when the government told us that, you know what, we're probably going to be around 3% at the end of 2021. This time right now. They said this earlier this year. They said, end of 2021, we expect maybe 2.53%. You know what I mean? They just announced like 3 days ago, 6%, bro. 6%. You know what I mean? So everybody was like, we're probably like 10, 11, 12. I don't think it's 20, 15. You guys, 15, that's kind of high, man. That's kind of high. The conservative guys were saying that. They were arguing that. 10%. You know what I mean? Nowadays, you know, at 6%, you know, we're like 20 is like, you know, it's probably right. It's probably, and it's scary to think about any higher than that. You know, it used to be a fun little game at 10. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I think they're BSing this much. Nah, it's just they're BSing this much. It's not that much. But now at 6%, that they're announcing 6%. Like that's the number they want to BS us with. That's the number of 6% without including food and gas and housing is at 6%, right? It's now scary. It's eerie to try to think about, you know, 20, more than 20, probably more than 20, you know? So, you know, what do you want to do? What do you do, right? What do you do? What you need to do is buy assets. Take your money, buy assets. Take your savings account, buy assets. Your savings account is no longer a savings account, bro. Paul Tudor Jones, PTJ, he's the Michael Jordan of investing. Came out last week. He's like, yo, the dollar is done. Don't hold cash. It's like, I'm not holding cash. I'm buying Bitcoin and other stuff, real estate. I'm buying all that other stuff. This is the Michael Jordan of investing. Everybody's looking at this guy, seeing, you know, what this guy's going to do. They want to follow his trends. It's Michael Jordan. You want to buy Michael Jordan shoes and his jersey. You go, Jordan for 3. You know what I mean? We do that, right? You know? When we do the little fake shoot paper ball into a basket, right? In trash can. That's Paul Tudor Jones. It's like, your 60-40 portfolio, where, you know, 60% is, you know, in safe things like bonds and whatnot, and your 40% is more speculative stocks and commodities. He said, no, it's done. It's done. You need to be a lot more speculative. You need to beat 20% every year. Look, that means that your money that you already made from all the years that you worked needs to make 20% every year just for you to maintain the value. That's the new zero. Yo, do you know how hard it is to make 20% a year without crypto? Without crypto, it's very hard to make 20% a year. When, look, this whole mania about crypto and these run-ups and 4,500% in 2 years on Ethereum and 10x, 15x on Bitcoin, that's happening now. At some point, like, that's not going to be a thing anymore. It's not going to happen anymore. You know, maybe we're doing regular numbers like 15, 20%. Maybe that's what we'll do at some time in the future. There's only like 1 or 2 more bull runs left max for those kinds of things. And we're in the one, right? It's possible that after this one, there's no more 4,500% in 2 years. You know what I mean? It's possible. Okay. And just keeping it real, crypto, like, come on, man, that's my thing. You know what I mean? If at some point the price becomes so high that the volatility levels off and it's not as volatile anymore, you know, and it just levels off and it stays there, and you get like 10% and, you know, 20% dip and a 10% increase, and you know, over a year, you know, you start to do like stock market numbers, you know, pathetic little newborn baby numbers. They're just horrible. They're just disgusting. To get it away from me. So you got to make 20% a year. How are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? I hope you're watching these videos. I hope they're helpful. All right. I hope you got some value out of this one. And if I'm wrong, there's a comment section. There's a comment section. Go ahead, drop a comment. You know what I mean? Teach me if that's the case. You know what I mean? But man, we've been looking at inflation for a minute. Yo, Andreas Antonopoulos, this dude was saying in 2014, he was saying that one day they're going to do negative interest rates. I mean, 0% interest rates, then negative. He said after that, they're going to, you know, print like no tomorrow. And interest rate inflation is going to be 15, 20, 30%. Then he said that after that, they're going to need to move to a central bank digital currency. He called all this stuff, bro. And we all thought, like, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I see. Maybe that could happen in 20 years. Andreas, you're tripping. That's a long ways down the road. In crypto, we were thinking like, yeah, you know, 15, 20 years, 30 years. That's probably when that kind of stuff is going to happen. It's the US dollar. It's the US dollar. It's the US government. It's not going anywhere. No time soon. That's what we were all on that page, bro. We were all on that page. And then 2021 hit, 2020 hit, you know what I mean? The global pandemic hit, and that timeline has sped up, according to us, who were waiting for that, by 20 to 30 years. It was like a cool little, like, yeah, you know, Rage Against the Machine, when it was 20, 30 years out. Happening this rapidly, bro, it's like spooky. It's alarming. We're taking this very serious. Twitter, you know, your Telegram groups, everywhere where we're like really discussing crypto, and you can, you know, everybody wants to say what they want about us who invest in crypto. Like, we're not dummies, bro. We deal with data, like a lot of data on a daily basis, and the data is constantly changing. We're not stupid, you know, but it's scary to us. It's scary to us. It should be terrifying you. We have a way out. We're already in the lifeboat. You know what I mean? We're cool. We'll be all right. You know what I mean? We're all right. You, if you're not, it's bad. It's bad. So anyway, that's my 2 cents, man. Hope to, I don't want to be an alarmist, but I'm ringing the alarm here, okay? I'm ringing the alarm here. You're going to have to learn how to invest. If you're like 50 plus, you know, you're retiring and whatnot,